A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Nerf Secrets Revealed. And yes, it is still April 25th, and yes, I am still going forward with this 5-part episode for today, because what I would like to talk about today, here in part 4 or 5 of this 5-part episode here on April 25th, is the fact that, well, someday, there could be an even better Nerf-themed vehicle for any kind of children to play with. Now, to just talk about a vehicle itself, and the fact that sometimes, if you combine it with Nerf pretty well, you can get yourself a pretty darn good achievement that you can see with your own eyes. You can practically envision yourself as a young child driving the vehicle and just shooting your enemies down with the Nerf weapons that would be attached to it. But it's not always that possible as it may seem to be, because most of the time, when Nerf does try to make themselves a vehicle, when anybody tries to make themselves their own vehicle, for any reason whatsoever, to make it Nerf themed, they would have to have themselves plenty of good experience with many different aspects that would need to be taken in order to make themselves a pretty good masterpiece for their own use on the Nerf battlefield. Specifically, they would have to learn how to work with plastic, they would have to learn how to mold, they would have to learn how to sculpt, they would have to learn how to use paint and templates, they would also have to learn how to drill, use tools like screwdrivers and wrenches. They would also have to do well with design based on their own software, if they even have any kind of software. It's not like I'm holding back anybody from trying to do their own project. I just listed out several different key features and skills that would need to be used in order to create themselves their own masterpiece of any type. But in the case of a Nerf-themed vehicle that would need to be driven around, there would have to be a lot of specifications. If you were going to create yourself a life-sized vehicle and have it Nerf-themed specifically for yourself or for anybody else who would want to use it, then, of course, it goes even further than just everything that I mentioned. Not only is this everything I mentioned, there's also going to have to be the part where you're going to have to start working with metal, leather, upholstery, stuffing, framing, everything else that you would possibly ever need. Glass, engine work, exterior work, and interior work, of course, the use of tires and rims. I mean, there's just going to be a lot of money that you'd have to put together just to have yourself your own Nerf vehicle. And even though it may not be as much of a far-fetched idea for myself, I would actually feel like it could be a project that I would try to do someday. Just not right now, because, of course, I'm just somewhat on a bit of a budget here for every single month of my own life. But sometime within 20 years, it could be a good time for me to try that out at some point. To create myself a life-sized Nerf vehicle with attachment points that would be used to put in different Nerf blasters on it any different point in time. There could also be a time where I could end up attaching a large blaster like the Rhino Fire or something else entirely on the top of a car, but of course the car itself would also have to have itself some specifications to make itself look more different than any other type of existing car model that we have here today. If you were going to create your own custom type of car, it would be as easy as starting from the ground up, working your way up towards about to 5 or 6 feet above you, because starting from the ground and going up to 6 feet in height actually is not as easy as it seems. Because, of course, to have yourself a Nerf vehicle out there of any type of custom work whatsoever, it would just be as hard as first searching for parts that you would need, especially with engines and other custom work that you'd like to do on the exterior or even the interior. Have people of any craftsmanship, especially with metal workers or leather workers or rubber workers, especially for those of you trying to have yourself some tires to put on your car. But, of course, just talking more about custom cars, this just takes us back to where I was going to talk about something real quick. Because, of course, when Nerf has had themselves cars and other vehicles of the type that they have actually released into the marketplace for anybody to buy, they've had themselves an arachnid type of Nerf blaster, which is known as the Terror Drone. Then they've had themselves a tank blaster with a sentry gun hooked on top of it, And then eventually, there was an actual Nerf car. An actual Nerf car, except it wasn't entirely as functional as a real car, simply because it was meant for children, specifically for those who were 12 and under. But nowadays, when we're 20 and above, especially in my case, it could be anybody's dream to build themselves their own custom work. And in my case, it is definitely going to be a time. And even with the release of a brand new Nerf vehicle known as the Nerf scooter, in case you hadn't known about that, there actually could be a time to where I could talk about that later on. But blaster showcases aren't necessarily as available right now as they used to be. A few months ago was where I had already covered many of the mainstream Nerf blasters that were being released here in 2019. And yet, there's not as much information that I have for today that would actually lead me to wanting to showcase more Nerf blasters and the like, but to the Nerf scooter, I don't know. It's just not too long because, of course, I'm no longer at the age to where it would be required for me to be able to use it, but I could only dream that part. I could only imagine that part, especially. But once again, going back to creating your own custom work, to creating your own Nerf vehicle that would be much, much better than any of the other Nerf vehicles that have been made by Hasbro over the last several years. Again, it would take more work, more liberty, more time, more patience, and more commitment into putting yourself into such a big space like that. But in the end, it could be a promoting, rewarding experience for anyone around you, or even just for yourself if you do plan to use it only for yourself. But if you do plan to share it with others, it could be a rewarding experience for them. It could be very promoting towards the Nerf brand itself too, as of course, profits of course wouldn't probably want to be sent straight to Hasbro. If you are planning to build your own custom-made Nerf vehicle as a way for people to donate to you, the proceeds can go directly to Hasbro and Nerf, of course, because they should be able to own most of the rights to you creating a project like this. Licensing fees, of course, would need to be paid, and all that good stuff. But it's something that even I would like to engage in at some point in my life. Within 20 years of my time, I feel like it could be a job that I could take on anytime. And so, I hope that you enjoyed this part of Nerf Secrets Revealed, and I also hope that you continue to enjoy this side of the series. And if you want to see more go down on my channel, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.